Hello and welcome to Go Ballistic, where it was a very busy long weekend of Premier Sports Cup action. Big week of European football ahead as well. Sun Sports Head of Sport, Roger Hannah, is here to look back at all. Kris Boyd will be along in just a few moments as well to give his take on the big weekend. So, Roger, let's start with Rangers. Russell Martin has finally got his first domestic win as Rangers manager. Yeah. Certainly wouldn't have been as convincing though as he would have hoped, given a bit of a scare before going on to beat Alloa 4-2.
Yeah, you could say Alloa had a bright start to the season, but I think you'd just be kidding yourself on with that. There were a lot of changes. They weren't very good, Rangers. They still give away far too many chances. They still give away far too many goals. Any time the opposition goes forward, you worry for them. The own goal was a comedy own goal. And it's fine, to try and explain away the number of opportunities that the opposition side are getting, but it must be a worry for Rangers, particularly when you look at the 4 games they've got left in this calendar month. Bruges, home and away, St Mirren away, Celtic at home. They need to tighten up, and they need to tighten up quickly, Jonathon.
Were you quite surprised almost how content Russell Martin seemed to be after the game on Saturday? He was explaining that he'd made all these changes, lots of players handing many minutes. Were you kind of surprised he maybe wasn't coming across a bit more concerned by what he'd seen during that game in any way?
I don't know whether that's just a public front. I think any manager would have to be concerned. If he's not concerned, that would be a red flag to me. If he thinks that what's happening just now is okay, that's a red flag. I spoke to him out at the training ground on Friday, and he was explaining away the way Panathinaikos had played, and they were chasing the game because they were 2-0 down, and Pilsen were chasing the game, unusually over-committing players because they were 3-0 down, and that led to more shots in his goal. But you can't say that about Motherwell at Fir Park, or Dundee at Ibrox, or Alloa scoring twice at Ibrox at the weekend. There needs to be something of a sort of reality check about where Rangers are. Maybe that reality check will come after the 4 games. If Rangers can get through against Bruges, win at St Mirren on Sunday, and win the Old Firm game, then a lot of the criticism of this team will disappear during the international break. If results go the other way, the criticism in the team and Russell Martin will only intensify during that international break.
One player particularly picked up a bit of criticism last midweek was Jefte.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to be on the way out of the club. Left back already came in last night. They signed Jaden Megama on loan from Brentford. Now, it's a 19-year-old kid. He's only played 13 first-team league matches in his career. What do you make of him coming in? Is he going to come in to be first choice despite that lack of experience?
Well, I think he'll be first choice.
Could he be chucked
Bruges?
in straight in against Bruges, do you think? Yeah.
Listen, I think if you're being negative about it, you can say he's a 19-year-old kid. He's only played 13 games. If you want to be positive about it, he's one that Russell Martin knows, and also he'll probably be better than Jefte. Jefte has, he sort of started quite average and has gone downhill quickly. When he turned his back on Andy Halliday for the goal that Motherwell scored in the League Cup semi-final last year at Hampden, I think that was the beginning of the end for Jefte. If Rangers have got the type of fee that's been spoken about in the last 2 or 3 days, what a trick that is. That's fantastic. So let him go back to Brazil and they can draw a line under it. I'm never convinced about having as many loan signings as Rangers have got at the minute. I think a club the size of Rangers should always be in a better position to build their squad, but it is unique times. There are new owners, there's a new sporting director, there's a new head coach, so maybe for one season only, this is what Rangers need to do, but there needs to be more of a long-term vision so that they're not bringing in 19-year-olds who have played 13 games 24 hours before a big Champions League playoff game.
You mentioned the loan players there. I was going to mention that because you look at that, the number of loans in defence especially, combined with the players that are out of contract, and as it stands just now with Tavernier, Aaron, Suter, Giga, Megama, You're going to have Rangers looking for an entirely new defence again this time next year.
You say that as if it's a bad thing, Jonathon. But no, listen, the point you make is a valid point. There doesn't appear to be any progress with John Souttar's contract. Don't take my word for it, take John Souttar's word for it, because he was asked about it the other day. James Tavernier, I think, James Tavernier will probably go at the end of his contract. He's 33, he's been a great servant to the club, his numbers are fantastic, he led Rangers to the European final, he'll go. Magoma, I would imagine, will go back. Dujiga will go back to Wolves, because he's a £10 million centre-half, and Rangers won't pay £10 million for anyone. So, yeah, you're right what you say. It just, confirms the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
But it's now incumbent on Kevin Thelwell and his recruitment squad to get plans in place that by this time next year, there's a far more settled squad. Because the loan thing, you understand why they do it, but Rangers have been bitten a couple of times. But as well, Václav Černý, very good player last season, but he's back to his parent club. Abdallah Sima the year before, very good player for Rangers, but he's back to his parent club. And, it's going to be the same with Magoma and Dujiga and Mikey Moore and all of these players.
Well, you mentioned Sima there, and we're wanting your views here on Go Ballistic this season as well. You can email us at goballistic@thesun.co.uk. And a Rangers fan, Colin McDonald, actually did email us about Sima, and he was wondering, should Rangers have gone back in for him this summer? Should they still do something like that? Do you think that ship's probably long since sailed now?
It's probably sailed about 2-3 managers ago, from the time when Abdallah Sima was brought in. I think it was Michael Beale that brought him in at the time.
Indeed.
So, since then, Rangers have gone through Philip Clement, Barry Ferguson, now Russell Martin.
Yeah.
So I think, Colin, that ship probably has sailed. Good player when he was at Rangers. I'm actually, they went to Brest in the French League last season. Surprised he hasn't actually got himself settled in somewhere and producing the kind of form he produced at Rangers, because he's a talented player.
And Brighton gave him that new one-year deal as well, so still under contract there. Obviously, you mentioned those 4 huge games. We'll have plenty of time to touch on the ones coming up over the next couple of weeks or so, but that first one tomorrow night against Club Brugge. Do you see this, as many expect, it's going to be Rangers' biggest test yet?
Without a doubt.
And can they get through this tie?
Well, anyone who doesn't think it's the biggest test yet, go back and watch the first 15 minutes of the pre-season friendly in July against Club Brugge.
Sure.
They are a step above Pilsen and Panathinaikos. They did very well to get past Salzburg. They won home and away against Salzburg in the third qualifying round. They will be favourites going in. Rangers will need to produce the type of result that they produced at home to Panathinaikos and Pilsen. I'm not going to say the type of performance, because the Panathinaikos game, especially for long spells at Ibrox, they weren't very good, but they got a 2-0 win. And Pilsen, they got a 3-0 win. That's the type of result they'll need to take to Belgium, because Bruges are a good outfit. They performed well at Celtic Park in the league phase last season, get a 1-1 draw. They have more experience in European football. They're a more settled team, and they'll be favourite. I'm not going to say Rangers can't get through, but Bruges are favourites.
Definitely. Now, Celtic obviously coming into the Champions League party this week. I think the big news from Parkhead, though, was that Brendan Rodgers decided to once again wear a tie on Friday. I'm sure a relief to the thousands in attendance and watching at home after last week's...
But no belt.
Oh dear. Let's not start on that.
Apparently he didn't have a belt on.
But I don't know if he's watching this, the no tie look.
Possibly.
Maybe the style,
Possibly,
that's what it is. No, maybe. You never asked him that, did you?
That's a good point.
But on the pitch, pretty straightforward for Celtic again. 4-1 win against Premiership opposition in Falkirk in the Cup. Dane Murray getting on the score sheet, a name that probably so many people had forgotten about. 22 years old now, had a rubbish time of it with injuries, basically been out of the first team picture for the best part of 4 years, really, at Celtic. Got a new deal. Brendan Rodgers talking him up. Murray seeming quite ambitious. Do you think he can have a future at Celtic? Can he make an impact?
He's got a future at Celtic, because he's just signed a new long-term deal. I mean, it seems crazy. He played a Champions League qualifier against Midtjylland for Ange Postecoglou in his first weeks in charge. As you say, he's in the rough time. He's had a couple of loan spells as well. He looks a good player. He played well enough on Friday night. Celtic have been looking for centre-halves. Nawrocki didn't work. Lagerbielke didn't work. It looks as if Stephen Welsh might move on. Jamai Simpson-Pusey is only here on loan. So listen, at a time when Trusty and Scales have been sort of fighting for that position alongside Carter Vickers, maybe Dan Murray's going to get an opportunity to fight for that jersey as well.
Looks like it. Now, obviously Rangers will kind of know what they're getting when they face Club Brugge.
Yeah.
Bit more of an unknown quantity for Celtic and Kairat Almaty.
Yeah.
The home leg first.
Yeah.
How crucial is it going to be for Celtic to try and get this tie as far down the road as they can in this first leg before next week's trip?
It is, because they've been to Kazakhstan 3 times before. They've drawn once and lost twice. No Scottish team has ever won on Kazakh soil. The national team, the under-21s, Aberdeen when they went there, nobody's ever won. So it's notoriously difficult. It's a 9,000-mile round trip. There is a big time difference change. Long flights, it's not easy. All the logistics that go into it, it's not easy. So the last time it was Astana, they won 5-0 at home, and then they were 4-1 down at a spell away from home. It is tough. So Callum McGregor's already said it, Brendan Rodgers already said it. They'll need to win, they'll need a couple of goals at least. But I think they're well set to do that.
And that nightmare round trip as well, coming just before they play Rangers as well. So huge games coming thick and fast for Celtic as well.
The one good point for Celtic is they've got the Tuesday night that week. So, they'll come home before Rangers are in Belgium for their second leg. So it sort of swings and roundabouts. It's not the ideal tie. I mean, Brendan Rodgers admitted he would have preferred Slovan Bratislava just for the logistics of it all. It's far closer to home. But this is what happens. European competition. They'll go there. I would expect them to get through over the 2 legs.
And just before we hear from Kris Boyd, touch on another couple of the bigger results in the Cup over the weekend. Hearts, 100% record to start the season. They were flying, 2 great league results, taking to penalties at St Mirren and end up going out. Derek McInnes had obviously been, very bullish, talking about wanting to win silverware, telling the players he wanted to imagine them lifting the trophy. Unfortunately, that is exactly all they'll be able to do now.
Yeah.
But how big of a setback or a blow? Obviously, only one team can win the Cup every season, but they'll be disappointed to be going out at this stage, won't they?
Dreadful record in the League Cup. I think they've won it for 50 odd years, so perhaps it's not a surprise they're not going to win it this year, despite everything Tony Bloom's been talking about and Derek's been talking about. It just goes back to St Mirren are a good team. St Mirren finished top 6 the last 3 years, Jonathon, which is a better consistency level than Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts have managed. Very good in their own ground, underrated team. That should stand as a warning to Rangers as well for Sunday lunchtime.
Big time.
But nice finish by Alec Gogic. I'm not sure even he knew he had that in him. And they slug it out. And Stephen Robinson, I think it's a huge turnover of players he's had. But he seems to just bleed them back into the squad. Malik Dykstil, who's hardly been involved, come on, scored the crucial penalty. So it wasn't a huge surprise to me that St Mirren got through. But as a setback for Hearts, of course it is.
And Aberdeen won at Morton. Now, that's a result that you'd, just looking at things in paper, probably expected to happen. But the big thing for Aberdeen is that Kusini Yinge managed to get himself in the score sheet. Did anyone else in Scottish football need a goal as much as he did after the way he'd started his Aberdeen career?
Well, maybe Danilo or Adam either.
Well,
but it definitely did need a goal after the misses at Tynecastle on his debut. It's a good win for Aberdeen, Awkward things can happen when you're away at championship teams. Motherwell needed extra time to get past St Johnstone at the weekend. It's an awkward wee game, and they handled it really well. And they can now focus on FCSB, and they can do it in the knowledge, Jonathon, they've got that safety net. If they get through, and if postponed the United game at the weekend, so they've got full focus on FCSB. If they get through, it's the Europa League groups, which would be fantastic for Aberdeen. Absolutely terrific, financially and in terms of kudos. If they lose, and let's hope they don't, if they lose, they're in the Conference League groups. And again, European football guaranteed up until Christmas time. So it's a good time for Aberdeen. We're talking about, this is going to be pressure for some teams the end of this month, Rangers, etc., Celtic to a lesser degree. This is great for Aberdeen. So you can forget those defeats to Hearts and Celtic. They've got through against Morton. They've got a home draw against Motherwell. No offence to Motherwell, but it could have been a harder draw for Aberdeen. They've now got these 2 games against FCSB with the safety net. End of the month, they're at home to Falkirk. I think the whole thing could look a lot better for Jimmy Tillane by the end of the month.
He'll certainly be hoping. So that was Yengi's first club goal, incidentally, since April 2024. Would you believe?
Unbelievable.
Thank you very much, Roger. You're going to go and get ready to speak to Kris
The
Boyd.
birthday boy.
Is it?
It's his birthday today, it is.
Do you know what number it is? Are you going to give that away?
I'm going to give it away later on.
Right, excellent. Well, we'll look forward to that. Thanks, Roger. Obviously, a huge weekend of European football coming up. Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hibs, all in European action this week. So plenty across the YouTube channel. Online and in the paper, of course, to build up to that. Remember, get your views to us as well at Ballistic at thesun.co.uk. Transfer specials, set piece, look out for those as well. One-on-ones back as well. Part 3 of Billy Dodds with Bert McGregor went up last week. So go and check that out. Here's a little snippet of what you can get.
And it was between, I think it was once at Dundee United, once at St Johnstone, but as soon as I heard Rangers, I'm thinking, please. And that's what I've worked hard to do to get there. Michael Mole's injury, it was Henrik Larsson's the first time, but then Michael Mole's, he got injured.
Yeah, Henrik Larsson's made Celtic start watching you. Yeah, John Barnes, of course, was Celtic manager. Yeah.
Made the inquiry, was there because John Blackley pulled me, and I got on really well with John. Still, well, not for a few years, but went golfing with him and all that. He was great for me, made me a man as well after pinning me up against a wall a couple of times. He's a hardy boy.
That's a moment.
John Gregg said to me, he says, John Bartley's the only one to do me and get away with it, so that kind of tells you John Bartley was a top player.
That's respect from John Gregg, isn't it? Yeah.
And anyway, Rangers heard about it. They were trying to get more money out of him, rightly so. Dundee United, Paul Sturrock was trying to get another 50 grand for the club. David Murray phoned me at my house and said to me, I'm not going another 50 grand. You've got to tell them if... He was pretty force it over the line, but he said if they want another 50 grand, the deal's not happening. So I've had to say my piece again to Paul Sturrock.
I was going to
and
say...
he was like my dad, Paul Sturrock. I'm not saying... I always said to him about a father figure, but it was like my dad when it came to emotion. He didn't show it. And the day that I left Tannadice, I was in tears, but I had to force it to get out.
But Jim McLean...
And Paul Sturrock, I'm not saying he was crying, but he was...
You could tell.
Yeah, no, I think there was a tear.
Well, we can now head down to sunny Ayrshire, a man in a t-shirt. Boydie, it's a big European week. Rangers Tuesday, Celtic Wednesday, Aberdeen now join Hibs on Thursday. What kind of nick are they all in? Russell Martin made a lot of changes to that Rangers side against Alloa in the Premier Sports Cup on Saturday evening. Not sure he get much more of a tune out of them than he has out the first choice ones, but will the big hitters all be back for Bruges tomorrow night?
Yeah, you would imagine so. Obviously, Mikey Moore came in at the weekend and he looked lively enough. Whether he's ready to start a European tie, I'm not so sure. You might see him, making an appearance from the bench. The exact same with Asgard. I felt as if when he came on, there was a little bit of more control and some nice touches. But I mean, let's be realistic, Roger. He's not played a lot of football. I think it would be. I wouldn't say it's crazy because I mean the level of fitness from these players nowadays is through the roof, and I mean they could come in, but in terms of that match speed and intensity you have to play at, especially in a Champions League qualifier, it would be a lot to throw Asgard in there and expect him to work wonders straight away. Magoma at left back, does he come in? That's probably more of a with the balance in the left hand side. That is if Jefte obviously leaves. That was story was broken a couple of days ago, and he still seems to be there anyway. So I mean, I don't know we're doing this right now, and both players are in the building, so I don't know who will potentially be that left back. Obviously, we need to register them as well for Europe. So we don't know where that one's at, but there's no doubt.
He's got to 11 o'clock tonight to register Magoma and potentially one other if Rangers were to sign for win today. The critics will say it's a very young Brentford reserve left back, but others will probably say he's going to be better than Jefte was. And for the figures, if you believe them, for the figures that have been quoted for Jefte, probably a deal that Rangers had to take, surely.
100%. I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer. If it is, I mean, I think the club would have bitten off for half of that, to be honest. I mean, if the rumours are reported that they're true in terms of £6 million, €7 million, that is some amount of money for someone who I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, I'm probably doing him a favour saying he's done okay. I don't look at him and think. I never looked at him and thought he was going to be a long-term Rangers left back. Obviously, since Russell Martin's come in, that's been pretty evident. The fact that Max Aarons has played there out of position, and I mean that's something else that Rangers could do. Revert back to that in the Champions League game on Tuesday night as well, Roger, because it might be a little bit more solid. But the left-hand side for me, whether if it's Magoma or Jefte still plays, whatever, there's at least that natural width rather than everything coming in the pitch. They'll look to go outside. That balance is as you speak about in football terms. But listen, €6 million for Jefte is an absolute no-brainer if that is what it is. Because I think for what they brought him in for, and it's not as if he's came in and been unbelievable. So I mean, listen, if Rangers have been able to get that type of money in, then fair play. Maybe the recruitment's not been as bad as we thought.
What about the team then? I mean, you spoke about Moar and Asgard and Arlaki action. Does that mean that Gassama's back in, Antman's back in, and then it's 3 from 4 in the middle of the park? Raskin, Diamande, Rothwell, Cameron? No,
I can't see Rothwell playing. I think it'll be Raskin, Diamande and Cameron. They'll be the ones that's been in there. I think it's a better balance. There is no doubt that I don't think you get the best out of Nico Raskin further up the pitch. I said that right at the start of the season, that 3 of them couldn't play that way. In terms of what he brings in and around that central area with his aggression, basically, to go and close down. He's good on the ball. He will look to dictate the tempo of a game. I think he has to start as a 6. Cameron is one who, I think Russell Martin has spoken about energy and enthusiasm and going and closing down. Lyle Cameron has brought that in abundance as well. He's a tidy footballer. We've seen that at Dundee last year. Maybe, as I said, that's where you're looking at Asgard potentially long term for Rangers to come in that area there. Diamande will play as long as he's fit. So I think in and around that area, then Rangers, they should be solid enough. Antman will come back in the right hand side, and then we say that you look at, does he end up maybe playing Kasama and Moore through the middle? Because I look at Danilo. I mean, well, maybe if Dessers is fit, but that remains to be seen if that's going to be the case. And his performance the last time wasn't great either. So there is no doubt that the number 9 position is causing Russell Martin problems. There's no doubt about it. There's nobody more or less. This position's mine.
What about the old number 2 position, right back? If we think Magoma's coming in to play in the left, who plays right back? Does Max Aarons play, or does the captain
Tavernier plays? As I said last week. Like right now, and I'm based it on right, I don't see anything that's came in that's better than what was already there right now. And listen, that might be a few weeks down the line. I might have to change my tune in that, but I don't see, as it stands right now, Max Aarons better than James Tavernier. I think James Tavernier gives you more going forward. Defensively, both suspect, but there is no doubt that James Tavernier going forward brings so much more to Rangers than Max Aarons. So there's probably still, trying to build up the connection, whether it's Tavernier and Antman, but I do feel as if Antman has potentially got the tools to allow James Tavernier to get back to. He's never going to get back to what he was, say, the year that Rangers got to the Europa League final. I mean, he was outstanding that year. For that little chunk in there, he was outstanding. But I think that was down to having players ahead of him that he gave the ball into, and he knew that they weren't going to lose it. So he could go and join in the play, he could go and overlap, he could get balls into the box. Whereas now, or maybe there for a period where it was going into whoever was playing that right hand side, it was breaking down, then he was having to run 50, 60 yards back to get back into position. Whereas I think with Antman, he's tidy enough on the ball, he's got touches, he will bring others into play. I think he trusts him, which we might see James Tavernier getting back to a level where he can go around them. And he knows that there's a right good chance that Antman's going to keep the ball here. And he's not going to lose it. So that allows him to get it forward. James Tavernier's not at the level in terms of getting up down the pitch that he was 5-6 years ago. It's impossible to be that. but a lot of that's down to the guys in front of him. And even in that central role as well, we spoke about years going by, people like Ryan Jack and Kamara, Davis, shuffling across and protecting that right-hand side whenever James Tavernier got forward. I mean, Nico Raskin can do that, and we've seen it. He can get all over the pitch. I'm not sure. I mean, Rothwell will get on the ball and look to make things happen. He's a tight enough footballer. But in terms of sensing that danger, I think Nico Raskin's another one that he's better than that as well. So that's why you might see him as that 6, just being able to shuffle across. It allows Rangers to get potentially the fullbacks a little bit higher to then stop the opposition from playing. Because there is no doubt, Roger, Rangers cannot keep giving up the opportunities that they're given. I mean, again, and I know the team was changed on Saturday night, but it's irrelevant. The same things that happen. You can't praise a team when, like Celtic, for example, if they make changes when they come in and you're saying they're well coached, they're coming in, everybody knows their position, they're going forward, they're committing numbers, the starting 11 and then the 7 or 8 that come off the bench. I mean, you go back to last season at Pittodrie, we have said that, Celtic squad, they're well coached, they look after themselves, they're ready to come in when they went up there and battered them at the end of the season. We can't praise that type of coaching and management, but then, on the other hand, when, the same things are happening for Rangers to concede the 2 goals that they did on Thursday night, on Saturday night, it's no good enough. And you look at, the defending for, I know Bailey Rice is playing out of possession, and I don't know if he was injured beforehand, and he looked as if he maybe just got injured in the incident. But you've got to be stronger on that left-hand side. And then when the ball comes into the box, wow, it's just here, there, and everywhere. The second one, another goal that Rangers have lost from a corner kick. You look at, it seems to go okay when Rangers are in the opposition's in the opposition box. They'll go and attack it. They want to be a hero. They'll get their head on the ball. They'll score goals. But it means just as much to go and get your head on it at the other end and get it cleared.
Yeah, get it away.
And I think that would be a worry for Russell Martin as well. The amount of sloppy, stupid goals that Rangers are still giving away. Going into this next block of 4 games, when you think of the 2 Bruges games, the Celtic game, and a very, very tricky game that Rangers have decided to now play at St Mirren on Sunday.
You speak about Celtic changes. Brendan Rodgers made quite a few for Falkirk on Friday night, and they didn't really have any difference. Dane Murray scoring a goal today, signed his new contract extension. It was Engels and McCowan in midfield, a couple of changes up top. They've now got Kairat Almaty at home on Wednesday night. Both Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor have already said how important it is to get a decent lead to take to Kazakhstan. They had a 5-0 lead against Astana the last time they played Kazakh opposition, and they found themselves 4-1 down at one stage in the second leg over there. So Wednesday's big. I was going to say all the big hitters come back, but I'm not sure what the big hitting front 3 would be. Maida, certainly. Is it Adam Ida and James Forrest, Boydie?
You would have to think. The only other thing he could possibly do, you've got 2 options. Does he bring Yang in, and then he could maybe move Maeda through the front? Maybe, because Adam Ida does seem to be struggling. The only other, could he play Nygren off one of that side, and then it allows him maybe to put Maeda through the middle that way as well. But again, it's all going back to what Brendan Rodgers said a few weeks ago. He needs players in. Especially in that forward area. You can't lose the players that Celtic have lost over the last, arguably 3 starters. And Nicholas Kuhn, Jota, and Kyogo have left the building. So they're going to have to get players in. There is no doubt about it. I'll be interested to see what happens. If anybody arrives before the deadline.
Celtic 11 o'clock Tuesday night to register players. Register anyone extra, buddy.
Yeah, but I think also as well though that a lot of what Celtic will probably do will hinge on the result in this first leg as well, because Celtic have to bring in players. They have to bring them in, and if they've got a comfortable enough lead, you would expect them just to say, right, okay, we've got Champions League football, let's go and get players in now to take us forward. But you listen to a lot of Celtic fans, and it seems to be back to what it was ages ago, where you're playing with fire. when you look at it, because it could quite easily go the other way. Then all of a sudden you're saying, well, why did we not go and bring players in, and then you bring in one or two just to appease everybody. And you can get the feeling that Celtic, because of the interest from Cameron Carter-Vickers, in Maeda, in Hatate, they might turn around and spin it in a narrative of being able to keep a hold of them. I mean, it's the kind of thing that Celtic would do. But I mean, if you're Brendan Rodgers, and by the way, even the players, there's nothing worse as a player if you look at it and you've got an opportunity to get to Champions League football. You know the bonus you're going to get off of that. You know what the money's going to bring to the club. You know the feel-good factor. You know that whatever happens between now and the end of the transfer window, Celtic will sign players. Why not just go and get it done right now?
Celtic might argue, of course, Boydie, that there's a food chain. They wait and see out. They're waiting in certain players whose clubs might not be ready to let them go for any reason. Some of the clubs,
in Europe,
looking at their players, might still be in Europe themselves just now.
Yeah.
Maybe English Premier League clubs waiting to see whether they're in that 25-man squad or whether they're surplus to requirements. They do tend to do a lot of business towards the end of the window. They did it last year with Ida, with Engels, with Austin Trusty. They've got another 2 weeks.
No, Roger.
Until 2 weeks tonight.
It's different though. You go back to last season, Celtic were guaranteed Champions League football. They were guaranteed that, it's going back to what we're saying there. They know they're going to bring in players.
So will it all click in after next Tuesday when they know whether or not they're through against Kairat? And they should get through against Kairat.
Yeah, they should. I mean, I expect Celtic to be the Champions League, but there is always that. But they might not. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they could. They might not get there, and you feel as if. Personally, I think Celtic will have enough, but Brendan Rodgers can't keep going into press conferences, and now all of a sudden it's spun round the other way. No, I'm happy with what I've got after an outburst a couple of weeks ago when he was more or less demanding players to come in. Now you're looking at it saying that Celtic will bring in players. There's no getting away from it. But why not just do it before? Why not just do it now?
How many do you think they'll bring in?
Well, I think they'll bring in a good 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think they'll need to get someone on that left-hand side for me. I think Kieran Tierney's there, but they'll need to bring in a left back. I know that the Japanese boy, Korean, what do you call him?
Moar, Japanese defender.
He's played
more of a centre back, but he has left side.
He's obviously he's played there. He played there previously, but he's not been seen. So you don't imagine that's going to be someone where Brendan Rodgers is saying, well, he's going to be a cover for Kieran Tierney. Yeah. When you look at what Celtic have had in that position over the last couple of years, central midfield, Celtic are strong enough. I mean, there's no getting away from them. They're really, really strong in there. They've got 5 or 6 players in there that any of the 3 could play. But the way that Brendan Rodgers plays, the way that he plays with the 2 wingers and the striker, I mean, you would imagine that there'll be 3 or 4 forward players arrive at Celtic because that's what's left. I mean, Kyogo's never been replaced. Jota's been injured and has went out of the team, and Nicholas Kuhn's been sold as well. So in those forward areas, that's where you'd expect Celtic to bring in at least 3 for me. I do expect someone in the left back area. Right back, they're fine. Tony Ralston never lets them down when they come in. Centre back, they've got options. Goalkeeper, they're fine. So I said I don't imagine there'll be much change anywhere else. Maybe another someone that potentially is a 10 as such, but I can't see. Brendan doesn't really play that ways. I mean, he's two 8s are high, and they will ask whether it's a Tati. Engels, and you forget Paolo Bernardo's still there as well. I mean, he's another one. McCowan's come in and done really well. Nygren's there now, so they've got plenty of options in there. But you look at Celtic, and they've been good at even bringing players in that have kind of project players. And they might sign someone else in that middle of the pitch just to allow them to develop in time to settle. But I do expect at least 3, minimum 3, maybe 4 in the forward areas inside the next couple of weeks.
Aberdeen join the European adventure as well on Thursday night. FCSB, Wilkorum Stoy Bucharest from Romania. It was a much needed win for Jimmy Tilley at Capello in the Premier Sports Cup on Saturday. They had 2 defeats, no goals scored. There was question marks about some of the new signings, particularly the number 9, Kusini Yenge. He got his goal. Will that just settle everything down before the Romanians come to Pittodrie on Thursday, buddy?
Well, I mean, you would expect him to have went to Capello and won the game comfortably. I don't think Mottl had a shot and goal. Yengi obviously gets his goal, but again, from reading reports and spoken to a few people who were at the game, I don't think it was a brilliant performance. And I think that looking at it, what's going on here? I think looking at it from a point of view from Aberdeen's point of view, sorry. I think it was once Clarkson and Shinnie came on that they seemed to settle down, and it was a lot better from there. But I mean, Roger, I just find Aberdeen a hard team to actually work out right now. It wouldn't
have seen much of them.
Eh? Well, not seen much of them.
But
again, even having watched them last week at Celtic, I just don't know what they are. I don't know if, are they a counter-attacking team? Are they sitting in, being hard to break? Obviously, that then leads to counter-attacks. They don't have a lot of pace. They've been linked with signing another, 2 or 3 players, 2 anyway, for more money. The money they've already spent in the squad is big. So, I mean, they're guaranteed group stage football. This will be a test for them against Steaua Bucharest. We've seen them come to Ibrox and get absolutely thrashed, last year. But I'd imagine it'll be a tougher test for Aberdeen. And I'm looking forward to see how they go on, because you want your Scottish teams to do well. It might be a step too far for them to get to the Europa League, but as I said, they've got that safety net of at least
they're falling
into conference, so they can go. It's not a case of trying to hold it. They can go and give absolutely everything to try and get to that Europa conference, which would be huge for Scottish football, huge. But as I said, it'll be a tough test. But I tell you another one that and I know we're just about to. I'm looking forward to see how Hibs do. I thought got the job done. Got the job done over the two, the 2 legs in the last round. They will fancy their chances against Legia Warsaw as well. Hibs are a good team. You only need to look at the weekend as well, in terms of when we praise Celtic for making changes and it seems to be seamless. Hibs made, 5-6 changes at the weekend as well, against a team where you would say Livingston caused problems. It's not an easy venue to go to, but they've went there and won comfortably enough. So, I mean, they could be absolutely, David Gray could be absolutely delighted with that. Managed to get Kieran Bowie a rest yesterday. So they will look forward to the game against Legia Warsaw, and they will fancy their chances, and rightly so, because what Hibs have got is they seem to be solid enough defensively. I know Smith made a couple of mistakes the other night there, but I think you've got to praise him the way he bounced back. We've seen goalkeepers just fold, and when you consider, Smith arrived at Hibs as a backup goalkeeper, and I touched on this in my column. I think the boys only lost about 5 or 6 games in a Hibs jersey.
Yeah,
and three of them have been to Celtic.
How big is Thursday though? Because big picture, they lost the second leg to Partizan.
Yeah,
they lost at home to Midtjylland, albeit in extra time. Do they need a big home performance this time and a big home result on Thursday?
I think they need a positive result, Roger. Hibs are the kind of team looking at them that because of the pace they've got in their team from the wide areas, from Boyle, Cadden can get them down. Abita defensively, but can get them down. But they can change it and bring on Nicky Cadden, who then brings that bit of pace. Martin Boyle, the pace that he's got. Kieran Bowie, I've been really impressed with him. So you could argue that Hibs are more set up to be, that team away from home. They can sit in, they can absorb a little bit of pressure, hit in the counter attack, and ask questions. But to allow them to be able to do that,
are you worried about them coming to Ibrox in the Premier Sports Cup?
We'll touch on that in a minute. They'll no need to sit in at Ibrox, that's for sure. But I look at Hibs. They're more set up to play away from home, and I think if they can stay in this tie, which they will do, and if they can get away with even a draw at Easter Road on Thursday night, they've still got a very good chance because of the way they play. They're very good at what they do, Hibs.
Aberdeen and Hibs have clearly taken it seriously. They've taken up this offer from the SPFL to have their weekend league games postponed. Aberdeen won't play Dundee United so they can focus on FCSB. Hibs won't play Falkirk, the TV game, so that they can focus on Legia Warsaw. Are you surprised Rangers didn't take up that chance? Because both the league and the clubs suggested they were going to postpone the game at St Mirren. You're covering it for Sky Sports on Sunday lunchtime. They then changed their mind. Was it all down to the Nasser Dejiga red card? What's your thought? Should they have called it off?
Yeah, I think it definitely is down to that. Added to the fact that Celtic were always going to play their game at home against Livingston, so Celtic will pick up 3 points there, and then all of a sudden you're going into that Old Firm game 7 points behind. Rangers have got this game back on because of the red card, but obviously the start of the season as well. I mean, you could. By the way, Roger, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Rangers go to Paisley and win the game on Sunday.
Of course, it's just knocked Hearts. Just knocked Hearts out of the Premier Sports Cup, and Hearts are going to be champions in a few years.
Yep, correct. So the thing is, it kind of annoys me in a little bit, both sides, because both clubs are the majority of Scottish clubs have moaned for a number of years now that the hierarchy don't help us here qualify for Europe. Well,
yeah, they are helping.
The opportunity has been there to allow you to qualify, and both have turned it down for different reasons. So I can. Sorry, Rangers have turned it down. Celtic, both of them have turned it down, decided to play. But I mean, I can totally understand why Celtic are playing their game. They're at home. They will feel as if they can go and wipe the floor with Livingston, my second team. They've done it to Falkirk on Friday night there as well. So I mean, Celtic will feel as if they can beat Livingston comfortable enough. But Rangers going to St Mirren is going to be a very, very difficult game. Sandwiched in between 2 Champions League games, which is going to be difficult. And then the following Sunday at Ibrox, I mean, if the next two weeks don't go to plan for Russell Martin and Rangers, I do not know where it leaves them. I don't. I mean, we've seen seasons over very, very quickly, but it's usually been the turn of the year. You could argue that the season will be over and it's the end of August. You can look at it and say, you've got Europa League, but the Europa League just becomes a focus once you're knocked out of the Champions League, and everybody then think, with Thursday nights, and you can go and pick up a couple of results. As I said, the St Mirren game is going to be difficult enough, but if you have to lose the Old Firm game as well, wow. I mean, I do not know. I do not know where it leaves Russell Martin, and I know he's saying it's like you're turning a tanker, but I mean, the end of August, Roger, and you could be looking at Rangers in serious trouble.
Can I just say, viewers, Boydie's got the season over by the end of August. Please do keep watching Go Ballistic every Monday and tell me we will have great content on this show, won't we, Boydie?
Yes, we will. We will. I'm away to enjoy the rest of my birthday.
Many happy returns.
Thank you.
Of August every year. What are we saying today, Boydie? 42 years young?
39. Big 4-0 next year, friend.
I think you'll need to take my first answer. All the very best. You enjoy your day.
Thank you. Enjoy.